The secret of Stoicism is that the richest form of wealth is the one that cannot be bought, for no empire of gold nor palace of marble can rival the freedom of a mind that governs itself through virtue. Now consider this question. When was the last time you believed that if you only had more money, more possessions, or more status, you would finally feel secure and fulfilled? Reflect on it for a moment, and if you wish, share your thoughts, because this is not just philosophy but the very fabric of daily life. I promise you that by the end of this journey, you will discover a truth that reveals what wealth really means, a secret that the Stoics guarded and practiced. And I invite you to remain until the conclusion so that promise may be unveiled in full. To begin this exploration, let us step not only into the streets of ancient Rome, but also into the bazaars of Persia, the temples of India, the quiet gardens of Japan, and even the neon-lit avenues of our own modern cities. Across all these times and cultures, humanity has been driven by the chase for wealth, yet the form of wealth has shifted. Coins and spices, silk and incense, jewels and lands, digital numbers on screens, all of them glimmer for a moment, then fade. The Stoics, however, spoke of a different treasure, one that never eroded, one that no invasion or inflation could touch, one that lived within the discipline of the soul. Seneca, who held vast estates and influence in the Roman court, wrote letters to remind himself that bread and water were enough, and that silks and banquets were but distractions if they chained the spirit. He trained himself in voluntary poverty, not to despise wealth, but to prevent himself from being enslaved by it. Imagine him setting aside the golden cup and drinking instead from clay, a conscious act of freedom. Now shift to the East, where Buddhist monks centuries earlier walked with begging bowls, teaching that possession leads to attachment, and attachment leads to suffering. Though they lived worlds apart, the echo of their wisdom resounds together. The external cannot buy what is internal. Marcus Aurelius, crowned with the responsibilities of empire, confessed in his meditations that honors and riches are fleeting, that only the alignment of the soul with reason endures. Picture the emperor at dawn, the city still hushed, writing to himself that the glitter of wealth is illusion, that justice and wisdom outlast stone and coin. Then consider a samurai in feudal Japan, who may have carried armor worth a fortune, but was bound by a code that measured wealth not in gold, but in honor and self-mastery. The Stoic truth finds resonance far beyond Rome, proving that the secret was never confined to a single land or time. Yet why does this truth matter now, in our era of endless consumption, where advertisements whisper promises of happiness? If only you buy more, upgrade more, consume more. Because just as in Rome, just as in every age, the hunger for more is never satisfied. Imagine a merchant in ancient Athens suddenly gaining an inheritance of coins, the crowd expecting him to indulge in luxuries. Instead, he remembers the teaching that virtue is the only true good, and he chooses simplicity. In the same way, today, a person may receive a sudden increase in income or possessions, and the world urges indulgence. But the Stoic secret asks a different question. Will you own these things, or will they own you? The Stoics taught practices to guard against this trap. They advised rehearsing poverty, sleeping on the floor when a bed was available, eating coarse bread when feasts were at hand, wearing plain garments when silk was within reach. These exercises were not punishments but shields, reminders that the soul is richer when it needs less. Consider Epictetus, born a slave, possessing nothing, yet declaring himself freer than emperors because his mind remained unchained. His wealth was invisible yet unbreakable. Contrast him with countless rulers across history who held treasures immeasurable but lived in fear, suspicion, and greed, their souls impoverished despite their overflowing vaults. What then is this wealth that cannot be bought? It is the calm mind that does not tremble at loss, the steady spirit that does not swell with gain, the freedom of a person who knows that their value is not written in numbers or possessions. It is the joy that arises from integrity, the strength found in discipline, the peace born from aligning actions with wisdom. Imagine standing in a crowded financial district today, screens flashing prices, people rushing with anxious eyes. Now imagine walking calmly among them, knowing that your worth is not dictated by those numbers, that your treasure is within, untouchable. That is the Stoic fortune, the unpurchasable wealth, and yet it is not easy. The temptations are loud, the markets dazzling, the desire insistent. This is why the Stoics insisted on daily reflection. Seneca advised ending each day with a review of actions, asking what was done well, what was done poorly, what could be improved. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself that he would meet people driven by greed and ambition, and that he must guard his mind against their influence. Epictetus urged constant attention to what lies within our control and what lies beyond. The result of these practices was resilience, a fortress of the soul that no storm of fortune could breach. Now return to the promise from the beginning. I told you there is a truth to be revealed, a secret Stoic treasure beyond purchase. That truth is this: true wealth is needing less. When you need less, you are free from chains. You are no longer a servant of desire, you are master of yourself. And the paradox is that in needing less, you gain more, because every simple joy becomes abundance, every moment becomes treasure. This is the wealth emperors sought but seldom found, the wealth sages discovered and carried silently, the wealth available to you right now if you choose to see it. So I leave you with this question: will you continue to measure your fortune in what you can count, or will you dare to measure it in what you can never lose? The secret Stoic wealth is waiting, not in markets, not in treasures, but in the strength of your own soul. The Stoics would tell us that if you reflect honestly, you will find that much of what you chase is driven not by need but by fear. Fear of being less than others, fear of losing status, fear of emptiness. Yet those fears dissolve when you realize that the essence of wealth is not stored in vaults, but in the capacity to be content, to remain unshaken when fortune rises or falls. Think of a farmer in ancient China who after a flood loses half his crops yet remains tranquil, saying that fortune always shifts and that his duty is only to tend the soil again. His neighbors may pity him, but his calm is a fortune greater than gold. Think of a craftsman in medieval Europe who works with steady hands, though his wages are modest, because he measures wealth not in coins, but in the integrity of his work. These stories across cultures illuminate the same Stoic secret, that the true treasure is character, discipline, and freedom from the tyranny of desire. Now imagine your own life under this lens. Picture the possessions you hold dear, the accounts you guard, the ambitions you chase. What if they vanished tomorrow? Would you crumble, or would you stand as Epictetus stood, declaring that no external loss can rob you of the freedom of your will? The Stoics invite you to test this truth gently in daily life, to reduce a desire here, to embrace simplicity there, to see if your spirit grows lighter. When you skip an unnecessary indulgence and discover you are no poorer in joy, you have tasted the wealth that cannot be bought. When you find peace in silence instead of noise, strength in patience instead of impulse, gratitude in presence instead of accumulation, you are already living as the wealthiest of souls. This is not to say that money and possessions must be rejected outright. The Stoics did not call for absolute poverty, but for mastery. Wealth can be a tool for generosity, a means to support family, a resource for justice, but it must never become the master of your mind. As Seneca warned, possessions often possess their owners, and freedom is lost when the desire to keep grows heavier than the courage to let go. Therefore, the secret Stoic wealth is not found in refusing riches, but in never being enslaved by them. It is to accept them when they serve virtue and release them when they do not, with equal calm. So, as we reach the end of this journey, let us recall the promise made at the beginning. I told you there is a secret Stoic treasure that no empire could buy and no thief could steal, a truth that defines the richest form of wealth. That promise is now fulfilled, for you have seen it unfold through Rome and beyond, through Persia and India, Japan and our modern world, through emperors and slaves, through farmers and merchants, through the pages of philosophy and the silence of your own reflection. The secret is simple yet demanding. The wealth that cannot be bought is the wealth of needing less, the fortune of a disciplined soul, the treasure of a mind aligned with virtue. And now I turn the question to you. In your life, where does desire still whisper that more is needed? Where does fear still warn that loss would be ruin? Where does luxury still disguise itself as success? Share your reflections, because your answer may not only reveal your own chains, but may inspire another to loosen theirs. The Stoics believed that wisdom shared multiplies wealth, for knowledge that frees the soul is a treasure that expands when given away. So remember this, every day presents a choice between chasing what glitters and cultivating what lasts. If you choose the Stoic path, you will discover a freedom deeper than fortune, a peace beyond possession, and a wealth that no power can buy. The secret Stoic treasure is already within your grasp, waiting for you to claim it not by spending, but by seeing. And when you finally stand with nothing left to lose, you will realize that you have gained everything.